in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And now, coming live from the Midwest Racks and Rods studio, the new studio, it's the Outdoor Show with your host, Scott the G-Spot Biscobing, because when he's hunting in the woods, he's hard to find. With special in-studio guests, Mike Phelan, and you all know me, the co-host, he's a potato folks, Drew Biscobing.
Oh, classic.
Good to be back.
Oh, it's great
Good
to be back.
to be back, folks.
Beautiful new spot.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's been a long time coming. Man, a lot longer than we expected it to be, for one.
I think people call those sabbaticals. We took a sabbatical.
We did, yeah. I mean, it was kind of forced upon us.
A little bit forced. It's fine.
Right.
That's what it is.
We did our last episode at the old studio right towards the end of July there, or mid-July, mid to late July, when we had Jessica Ann on from the Wild Race TV, which was a great show. We had a lot of fun with Jessica Ann, and then it was like...
Not the Wild Race.
Not the Wild Race.
God.
That was the Wild Race. Race.
That's why I'm a potato.
But yeah, I mean, it's been a long time. And at first, initially, we're like, okay, we're supposed to get into here October 1st, get things set up. Well, here we are, mid-November, finally doing a show.
Right.
October was a crazy month between trying to get into this place. We didn't get in until the second week in October, I believe. And then the process of getting everything set up begins.
Well, and that's part of it, right? I mean, it's not just about finding a spot. You know, it's securing the spot, getting everything moved in. And then, of course, you know, we don't want to just slap a show together. We want to make sure that what you see is easy on the eyes, because we know that we're not.
Right. So if everything else around us looks pretty good, then the focus isn't so much on us.
Nobody wants to focus on us.
Right. So, I mean, sometimes I don't even know why we do this. But here we are. We're finally in. I mean, I think we probably could have maybe pulled something off last week. It would have been cutting it really close. Yep. There's always some fine tuning that needs to be done, and we want to try to give you the best half-ass show we can possibly give you.
That's son of a bitch. We might have just found a new name for our show. The best half-ass show.
Well, there's a reason why that says the Outdoor Show kind of crooked. It's like,
womp womp.
We're usually a little off kilter here anyway, so.
Flying off the cuff, as it were.
But here we are, like you said, and we're super excited to be in the new studio. I think it looks pretty good. Hope you guys think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Absolutely.
Love some feedback, what we can do better.
For sure.
Probably can't deliver on that, but...
Right. I mean, but we'll take your suggestions. Whether we can deliver or not, that's another story. But
right.
We're joined here tonight with Mike, and we're going to be getting into some of our archery season talk. And, of course,
this little thing called...
What's that?
This little thing called
The
rutcation?
The rutcation, yes. And the thing of it is like, we'll get into that. We'll get into that in a moment here. But in addition to that, this is also our 4th annual Wisconsin Deer Camp special, where we like to talk about deer camp and things like that. And we want to hear from you guys as well. So we want you guys to comment. I put up a post a few hours ago, and in that post, I commented that if you comment during our live stream about where you're going for Wisconsin, if you're hunting in Wisconsin, if you're not, if you're up in Michigan right now and you're hunting, or you have a gun season in your state coming up, comment where you're going, where you're at, and what you're bringing. It's kind of a cliche thing. I mean, Bob and Brian here in Milwaukee, they used to always do that. It was actually my favorite. I used to love that segment when I actually used to listen to those guys.
Right, totally.
You know, get me amped up right before the season, you know, just to hear from you guys. And so if you guys comment that during the live stream, we'll keep a tally afterwards, and you'll automatically be entered in to win a hat. And then we'll do a random draw for that hat, and somebody will be walking away with one of these cool Midwest hats. So.
What would be great is to also find out any sort of camp traditions that you guys might have.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what is it that you guys do every year, or what you bring, what you're drinking, you know, something along those lines. We've had a few throughout the years.
Oh yeah,
They've changed, right? I mean, as people come and go,
right.
And the hunting group. Some things fall off, some things get added on, and it's always a good time.
And some things never change.
And some things, as much as they change, they never change.
So, like I said, we're excited. We're here. We're going to do this show. We got Luke in studio here, producer. He's coughing away back there. You know, he's actually coming up to deer camp with us again this year, so we're excited to have him.
Better not get us sick, dude.
I've been doing this with the wife and kid. There's been a lot of coughing and sniffling going on in the house, and I'm like, come on, not now.
Right.
I actually slept on the couch last night. I might again tonight because I'm like, nope, not happening. Not getting sick.
Right.
I'm not waking up opening morning or tomorrow morning with it, and it'll probably happen anyways. It's kind of inevitable, but
It always does.
We do have our first tradition.
Oh,
We got Jesse Bracco. I don't know who that is. Adams Friendship Area. I'm bringing my boy an extra DeBee snacks. Laugh out loud.
Well, and when he says boy, we all know who he's talking about. And if you guys follow our page, you know he's talking about Hunter Bricko. And that kid has been on fire this season.
I hope he could spread a little bit of that.
That's as good as any of us.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, and Jesse's a great dad for always being there, mentoring him through these things.
100%.
Great dad, gets him out there, puts Hunter first and foremost, you know, and his hunting is always secondary, which is, you know, not a lot of dads can probably say that they
Right.
do that with their kid, but Jesse does with Hunter, and Hunter takes advantage and of all those opportunities and makes it happen. I don't even know. I think he's killed like 3-4 deer, a couple bucks, and it's always like a first with something. It's like first with the gun, first during youth season, first with crossbow, first doe for this, first buck. You know,
Right.
Between the last 2 seasons, I can't even hardly keep track of it. But he's kind of one of our junior members, and he represents us proudly, and we're proud to have him as
Very proud.
kind of part of our
Damn
team
proud to
here.
have him.
So.
We got Casey Ryan here. Breakfast sandwiches on
Okay.
the Big Buddy heater wrapped in tin foil in the blind. It's a must-have.
It is a must-have.
Yeah. I don't know if you're gonna need it so much this weekend. Sounds like a little bit warm.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
even if it helps take some of the dampness out of the air,
right.
yeah, nice, cozy,
mean, none of
comfortable.
it-
You need a nap, right? You're gonna want to take a nap.
Yeah, especially if you partake in one or two
2 trees. Yeah.
beverages on Friday night.
Jacob Smith says, planning to hunt in Burlington, Wisconsin, home of the Coat Factory, with a Stevens Model 200-308.
All right,
Okay.
very cool.
Heck yeah.
Is that just a kind of a solo hunt, or do you go to a deer camp? You know, love to hear back as far as that goes too. But we'll get into some more of that talk here in a bit.
Let's dive into the rut, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have all seen the posts. These 2 guys were not just successful in my eyes, but very successful with the deer that they were able to kill. Mike, we nicknamed yours the snowplow. Is that right?
Wide load,
Wide
the
load,
snow shovel.
Yes.
I think Chico
You called
said,
it wide load, yeah.
Yeah, I call it wide load. I think that's kind of what we call them.
I thought that was my
I
nickname.
mean, we don't really get too big into names. I mean, we did for a while there, if there's a certain buck, but a lot of times it just get like weird names, right? Like, or it's just real basic, like the bladed 8 last year. That's, I mean, and who hasn't had a bladed 8? I think Eric Starr shot the bladed 8 a few years ago with Chase Nation.
Jay's buck this year.
Yeah, Jay Schrader. Yeah,
All
he shot
bladed out.
And Wayne Paul made it.
Right.
Like a little moose and stuff. We had one of those, a couple of those a few years back, more than a few years ago. But but then I think Chico said something like snow shovel or something like that, or snow plow.
Snow plow or something, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Wide load's good. Snowplow's a little better. I like it a little better because I'm the wide load. But tell us more about that. I mean, were we getting him on camera at all?
Yeah, he was one of the first, I think one of the weekend I went up and put my cameras up. That was like one of the first pictures I got in a couple days was him coming out of the pines. And you couldn't quite tell because it was but then, towards you got closer to the rut, we were getting more daytime pictures. And there is an area where we know they kind of went through a lot more during the day. But it doesn't take much to... I was hunting here. I had another camera that was probably, if the trees weren't there, it was probably only 60 yards out in front, 70 yards away. And I was sitting there all morning on Thursday, and a big, huge one walked past the other camera. So I don't know where it came from, but I mean, it was that close, but yet...
Right.
Now, if he didn't have a camera there, you'd have no idea that. Just a huge thing. Just walk past on the other side of the trees that you can't see.
Yeah, and then I had an encounter with him.
Yeah, and then he
like
eventually
10 minutes
came up
later,
by
he
you.
made it over
Yeah.
by my stand, 20 yards, and he needed to take a right-hand turn. Instead, he took kind of a quartering left turn where I couldn't get a shot. But like I had it in my head, I'm like, oh, that's that Big Ten. Like, and to have him that close, but just not being able to get the shot because we didn't cut certain limbs, and we did that strategically because in this spot we felt like you'd stick out in this particular tree too much, pushed up against a doe bedding area. Like, it's just you very, very truncated.
And how far away were you guys?
Hundreds of yards
So quite some distance.
from east side to west side. Yeah, property for sure. Hundreds and hundreds of yards.
But it goes to show you, I mean, there's years you're like, oh, I get a ton of pictures. Oh, this is going to be wild, And then you go up there and it's like, I saw 2 deer in 4 days.
Right.
And none of them were the ones I saw in pictures. And then there's times where you don't see pictures, but, and then you see deer. But we commented a couple times. It was like, even while you're out there, you're seeing all these deer in this one stand, smaller, younger ones. But I mean, you're seeing all these deer, and only like a couple of them walked past my camera that I thought I had in a good, like, sort of wide area to try and get a good view of a lot of stuff. So, I mean, cameras are great if you can really narrow it down, but yeah, I mean, you really don't know.
Right. At the end of the day, you just got to get out there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and as far as the camera stuff goes too, like for prime example, on that Thursday, I had a camera out in front of me, a trail camera, and I had all sorts of action. That big buck, the big unicorn buck, was there, several other ones. I had a lot of action going on that particular afternoon, and the only deer that showed up that actually I got a picture of from that time period was that fawn that walked in front. So it just goes to show, and I mean, and this is a tight area. We're not talking about like sitting on a field edge. You know, we're in the thick of it, and I've got deer moving around me in multiple different spots, within 60, 70 yards, and sometimes much closer, and none of that shows up on camera. So to rely on a trail camera to the extent of like, I'm going to hunt this spot or not hunt this spot, or I have deer, I don't have deer movement, is ridiculous.
Right.
You're only going to, unless you got a camera pointing this way, turned around back, there's so much, they can miss those cameras so easily.
Sure.
And how many cameras are you going to put out on 160, 170 acres?
Right. Yeah.
You put them in strategic spots, in the predicted travel corridors or in areas where you think they are, if you're trying to get an idea of what is out there, but to rely on them as your sole source of information is, to me, they're ridiculous. You know what I mean?
So he comes in, right? Is he 1/4 away? Just perfect broad. He stops.
No, it's
Well, before that, though, the reason why, so that morning, we hadn't had a picture of him in a while.
Okay.
Maybe a month. I would say early October.
Probably.
And you got a picture of him that morning. We're getting ready and stuff, and you're like, hey, the white 8 came through at like 4 a.m. or something like that.
yeah,
like
sometime overnight. I can't remember if it was early morning.
And it was
or
pretty.
middle of the night.
I don't think it was in the middle. It was. I want to say it was probably close to 4 a.m. And I asked you what stand you were going, and you're like, I think I'm going to go over there. He might make his way back over. I'm like, that's solid.
Yeah.
I'd go with that.
No, like I said, based off of where it's like, well, I wasn't getting a lot of pictures while I was literally in that stand and could see the camera, but I was seeing all these deer walking by. I'm like, it's a good spot. And sometimes you got to just trust that common sense. It's a good spot. Yeah, you don't have a picture, but it's a good spot. Stick with it. Sometimes, myself certainly included, but sometimes you kind of give up after it and like, oh, well, this is just garbage. There's nothing coming through. But tomorrow, all kinds of stuff could be coming through, and you'll never know. And then you're like, oh. But if I go there and nothing comes through, well, now I just wasted another day. I could have gone to a different state.
Yeah.
That's my struggle in my head every time. Is like, if I change, I'm gonna get screwed. If I stay here, well, now I'm just screwing myself. Then
I have
you
the
never
same
know. When you got a limited time to hunt, it's like you only have 3 days.
same internal battle every time. You gun, right? So we don't hunt the whole week of Thanksgiving. We spend time with our families and whatnot, but we're up there for a few days, and there's like that pressure, like, oh, I really want to get my freezer full, and you're not getting that action right off the bat. You're thinking, oh man, am I in the wrong spot? Do I need to move? And I think very early on, it was easy for me to just kind of bail on that stand and start walking around and piss off my brother
By 8:30 in the morning.
so yeah, it's really easy to end up overthinking it instead of just going with what should work based off of your environment, right? The weather, all those types of things, and just the year of scouting that maybe somebody else put in on the land and is helping you out.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing with the rut too, and this is, very cliche, but it's the God's honest truth. When you're hunting during the rut, it's feast or famine. Him and I could be on the same property. For example, when I had all that action by me, you're like, oh, a couple fawns come through, or you could see nothing, and your buddy on the other side of the property is just, oh, it's on fire. I got bucks chasing everywhere. The one morning, coming into the stand at dark, and I couldn't see, but right next to me, within 30 yards, there was a huge chase going on I thought I was going to get run over at one point. Like I hunkered down at the bottom of my tree, and this went off. I mean, it was incredible. Like, and I knew it was like I saw one deer. I mean, it was completely dark out, and I had a deer come down close enough that I could actually see it in the complete pitch black. And they are like aggressively chasing around in circles and that. And there you are at the base of your tree, still like at least 45 minutes before you're even going to be able to see anything, realistically. And I'm like, well, do I just kind of sit here at the bottom for a while? And, but you're anxious to get up in the tree because, like they might move up and then they want, you want to be ready and set to go, but it's just like, you never know when it's going to happen. And that, I think, to me is the excitement of the rut, right? Is that you could be out there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and you didn't see anything all morning. You didn't see anything up until that point, but all of a sudden it could be 12:31, 2 o'clock, not even normal times that you expect to see deer. And boom, there it is. There it happens.
Sure.
But with that said, there's...
That's our backdrop.
Oh, did we really? Yeah. Oh my gosh, what the heck? Luke, do me a solid there and just hit that. I'm just gonna turn that. Well, I can fix it here real quick. Mike, go ahead. Continue on with your story there.
So he comes in, and you got him there. I mean, why don't you just pick him up, put him on your lap? You have plenty of room.
Yep. So, it was late morning. Scott had texted me. He wasn't seeing a lot, and he was gonna go in for a quick bite to eat. I'm like, I'll stay out a little longer. And then we talked about the time change because I'm like, well, I was gonna stay out till 11, And he's like, well, 10 o'clock is yesterday's 11.
Right.
So I'm like, oh, that's true. So I kind of like, okay, nothing was around. I had these 3 fawns that came in probably every 45 minutes. They made a circle. And so I turned around, started zipping up stuff a little bit and kind of packing up slowly. And then I heard some leaves and there's that fawn and there's that one 4-pointer that I've seen 12 times this weekend already. And then I heard something else and I thought, all right, well, who knows what's going on? I'll give it a couple of minutes here and turn around, wait, and no, that's just this other real spindly little 6-pointer. And what?
Oh, you're good.
Anyway, so then this little spindly 6-pointer came in, and I thought, that was the thing making the noise, But I still had the bow, and I'm like, all right. So then out of the corner, I saw this one come in, and it just peeked around the edge behind the tree a little bit, and not even close to being shooting. And I'm like, there's a big dead fallen down tree, and either he's got to either go this way, that way, or just turn around where he came from, because I have no idea where he came from. And
Sure.
so I went kind of closer to the side. Well, then he's going to be like 10 yards and go right underneath me. I'm like, well, that's not great, but hopefully he can walk out farther. And then he walked a little bit, then turned around, went back, and I couldn't see him again. I thought, all this time, it was right there, and he just didn't keep going,
It's a little bit more.
Then he came back
Didn't follow
again,
the script.
sniffed around by the end of the tree a little bit, and then went around the other side. And then, then he just walked the perfect path like he could have asked for and walked in the one opening and just kind of went down a little more open trail. And I just kind of followed because, like, this is 35 yards, that's 29 yards, that's 24 yards, and that's 22, 23 yards. And waited till he got to, because he was going down the trail. He wasn't veering off on anything. So, just waited till he tried to get him to stop when he was at the 25, 26 yard and didn't pay any attention to any noise I made and just kind of kept walking. And then I just kind of waited for him to hit the 23 yard spot. And that was.
You able to get it done?
Shot him.
That's awesome. I mean, look at what does he measure inside?
23.
23. That's wild.
So, yeah.
So, but the story doesn't end there, though.
No. It was, shot him, and he kind of, you could hear the pop, so you're like, okay, good.
Right.
Didn't hit him low, didn't hit him, anything like that. It went through. So, but I didn't see the arrow, and he kind of made a few runs and ran about 40 yards or so, 50 yards. And I kind of slowed down and just kind of walked a little bit. It's like, you know, you,
Right.
you kind of sink for a second. You're like, come on. I'm
Yeah.
like, I heard it. You know?
Right.
And then he kind of just slowly walked up this, there's kind of a little bowl. He walked up and then started walking up a little bit. Then he just stood there and stared for about 3-4 minutes, never moved. And while I got the binoculars out and I'm looking, that's when I could see the arrow sticking out the other side of him. The fletchings are still in, but it's like, looks like it's kind of out, you know, he's kind of accordion way. So, but it looked like it was sticking out the middle, but it was just kind of like flopping around like
Sure.
that. And he's not moving. I'm like, well, it must be moving with his breathing or something.
Right.
And he stood there, and then he turned, and then just really, really slowly just walked. And I couldn't see him anymore because there was a bunch of trees. So it's like, well, I hit him. Something's not right, you know.
Yeah.
The arrow's not there, so I couldn't see if there was blood on the arrow or anything like that with the binoculars. But I must have hit him, you know. So I gave it some time. Called Scott. I'm like, I just shot this 8-pointer, you know. And he didn't know it was the. He didn't know it was the wide 8-pointer we had gotten on camera, but
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
he
you said the big 8-pointer, and I'm like,
yeah.
and it did, yeah, what,
Fine.
right.
Fine big.
I was like, oh, that's great, you know. I'm like, well, which big 8-pointer?
Right. There's a few.
So, you know, he's obviously hit, so backed out, went in, probably about 4 hours later, came back out, and then, you know, like we always end up doing for each other, Scott kind of gave up his afternoon hunt for the most part to come help me, you know, track it and just see, you know, it should have laid down by then, hopefully, and possibly died. So went back out about 4 hours later, found some blood, not major,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but then the arrow was also still sticking in him on the other side. So
Right.
enough to find a trail for probably we probably traced it 100 yards or a
Yeah,
little less than 100.
and at points we were getting blood on both sides where it was clear that,
Yeah.
you know, but we couldn't find an arrow, you know, but clearly it was leaking down the arrow and dripping off of the
Sure.
the tip of it. And we got to a certain point, and it was starting to get a little bit later at this point, right? I mean, we had maybe 45 minutes of light left.
Yeah, at best 45 minutes. And yeah, we came to a point where the blood just, it was like drop, and then nothing.
Nothing.
Like absolutely nothing.
But it was right at that point, though, that we jumped a deer in this thick stuff, and it went through and it crashed hard, like it made a bunch of racket. But we could see just the ass end of it, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know that's pretty, because it wasn't that far away. I mean, it felt like it was maybe 30, 40 yards away,
Yeah.
and I'm like, God, I have a feeling that might be your deer. So at that point, we're like, you know what, we just need to back out and wait until tomorrow or something, you know, like before we drive this deer off the property. And in retrospectively speaking, you know, based on what he had told me, I don't know what I was thinking, but I should have known based on what he told me, the way the deer reacted, that this was going to be a liver shot.
Yeah.
You know, that it was walking. He felt like it was a better shot, but we often do, or sometimes we think their shot's even worse than what it is.
Oh, sure.
But we probably should have given it some more time, and at that point would have been either we're going to take up the track in the dark. If we would say we would have waited as they often, you know, the graphs or charts, 6 hours, right, for a liver shot, 6 to 12 to, you know, hours for liver. I mean, that's a dead deer, but I would say by the time we got out and actually started tracking it had been a solid 4.5 hours at that point. And, you know, so we called it a night, and you were going to take up the track the next day. I said, all right, I'll hunt, and then we'll figure it out. You know, if you don't find it, then I'll help you out after I hunt for a few hours and stuff.
So how hard is that?
It's
right?
brutal.
That's got to be one of the worst feelings ever, is to abandon tracking that deer. And I mean, there's no way that you slept very good that night.
No, it's hard because, like I said, I knew I had a good shot
Right.
just because of how close it was, 23. You know that, and I was just ready and waiting. I was calm when I shot it. You know, just like basically waiting for it to hit a spot. So I mean, unless I just screwed it up, I knew up and down wise, I'm pretty sure I hit where I wanted to hit, but it was walking. And I think that was, that essentially is probably what did it, because it seemed decent, but yeah, it was just too far back. So I got the liver, but yeah, to know that I know it's got to be, it didn't run away.
It's a dead deer.
Like, it's
Yeah,
not like you
liver
shot it in
shot
the
is
shoulder or in the arm or something, and it's like, you
But even
followed
having
it
that
for half a
knowledge
mile.
still
Yeah.
has to be difficult to abandon it. At
Well, that's
that
the thing, knowing what it was,
Right.
and then knowing that I know should have stopped. Was it the one that got up and jumped? Could be.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't. I don't know, but nevertheless, it's at least dead by tomorrow,
Right.
by the next day. But now you just got to find it.
Now you
'cause
gotta find
now
it.
it's just a waste, for many reasons, but it's just a waste now. And so yeah, I got up and Scott went out, early like normal, and then I waited till it was light out and went around the other side and of our property and kind of came in the other way and went back, followed the trail a little bit to where we came and found the last blood. And I spent probably about 45 minutes scouring the next like 15 yards in a
Just,
semicircle
right,
on your
yep.
hands and knees, looking for any spot just to see which way he went from there.
might have went, right.
And I did finally find one tiny little spot that was probably about 15, 18 yards out in front of the old blood or the last blood. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help a lot, but it's like, okay, at least continue that way. And then
Potentially, yeah.
I'm like, if that was all I'm going to find, I'm not going to spend another hour trying to find this one tiny little dot. I'm like, he had to start using just common sense because, time's wasting here, So
Yeah.
I'm like, so I spent, the next 3.5 hours just walking back and forth, following what looks like a path. If, like, you just imagine
Right.
if I had an arrow sticking out of me and, and we hadn't found the arrow to that point, we assumed by now it would have clipped off on one of those trees because it's kind of thick in that area.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And it, ultimately it didn't, but, never saw the arrow and, well, where is he going? That's the easiest way for him, if he did get up. So I just kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then I went and checked this other area where we have a swampy area where sometimes they go where you found your one deer that 1 year towards the water. And I walked that whole thing, nothing. And I was walking back and I was waiting for Scott to find his that he shot that day. And he hadn't called me yet to say he was back out there. So I'm like, well, I'm close. I'll walk back out there to the spot again. Just keep going until I hear from you. And yeah, sure enough, the last time I had seen this one low spot one of the other times I was walking. And that time I'm like, well, I'll go see what's on the other side of that just to see if it gets whatever. And walked over there and was scanning super slow with the binoculars like you do. You just stand in one spot and just start going really slow along the whatever horizon you see.
Yep,
And and I took him down. All of a sudden I looked over there and it's like, oh, it's like 20 yards off to my right, just sitting like a dog would just lay down. And that's where it was laying. Went over and arrow was still sticking out the other side of him. And
The arrow was
the arrow was still in him.
Wow.
Yeah, so he just kind of died right there. So yeah, and I put a pin in there, and from where the last blood to where I found him was, I think, 130 yards
Holy cow.
away.
Okay.
So
Ultimately not terribly
No, right.
far. You know,
In the big scheme of
yeah,
things.
right. In the grand scheme of it all, yeah, really not that far. So what was crazy is that like I had shot my buck and then I said, I felt pretty good about it. Luke, over here.
Thanks, producer Luke.
I was like, I don't know what time I called you, like 10:30 or something like that. And yeah, I think it was around there. I said, I'm going to go back.
well, you had shot it and you wanted to give it some time too.
Right. I was just like, right. Cause I didn't know where mine had gone down.
Yeah.
And we had planned to kind of meet up on the north side, like around 11:30. And, 11:30 kind of came and went, and I kind of got distracted back at the bunkhouse. And it was at that point then that you had called me at like 11:45, 11:50, just as I was about to call you. And I'm like, oh, my phone's ringing. Mike's probably sitting there like, well, where are you? I'm ready to go. Let's go look for yours. And I answer the phone, and you're like, I found him. I found my buck. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like that. I mean, I was I was stoked. I'm like, all right, all plans are changed. I'm coming out with the sled. I'll meet up with you, and lo and behold, we found it. But
It was
super
nice.
exciting.
I mean, I didn't using the map and those points. I mean, to look now, I mean, it's all trees. You can't really see where the stand is per se, but you know where it is. And okay, you start putting those points, and you could see like he just kind of where I shot him. He just kind of made one big giant circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've seen him enough on pictures that it's not like he just happened to walk through our property and he took off 2 miles down the road. And based on that circle, he was circling back to where he probably came from originally. So yeah, I kind of just, okay, well then he went like that. What if he went like that? What if he went like that?
Yeah, right.
You just keep zigzagging paths that make sense.
Pull him up here again here once.
And yeah, the last one. So I had previously walked that direction, but yeah, stopped about 30 yards short of where I was and didn't, never saw him the first time.
Just so wide. It's just too bad that his G2 on his left side wasn't as long as this
Right.
one, or he'd just be like crazy. I mean, but still, like 23 inches inside. That's such a wide.
Yeah,
Such
I'm
a
not
wide
upset with that at all. I'm
Well, and the brow tines too. I'm like, oh, maybe the one looks like it might have broke off at some
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
But I went and looked at that early picture, and it's like, no, he never really had,
Didn't
never
have
really
much for
had tall
brows,
ones.
yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much that's how he was.
But yeah, such a cool
seriously.
buck.
Congratulations. That's an awesome buck, man.
No, that was it was satisfying. Just sticking to it, I guess.
Right.
I mean, you
Yeah.
didn't have much option, but it was like you're kind of just desperate down to just trying to think, well, what if I went that way? Where
that's-
would I sit? Or what if I
Yeah.
went
Right.
that way? If
Being persistent and knowing that that's a dead deer, right? I mean, a liver
You
shot
owe it.
is a dead deer.
To that animal to take that time and
Right.
dedicate to finding them.
We had contacted our neighbor who has got Dozer, the bloodhound, who's now 6 years old. He would be 6 this year. But unfortunately, on that Monday, he had plans, or he was busy. He wasn't going to be able to come. And that, I guarantee you probably would have found him too. But,
oh yeah,
he was and that's the other thing too, is he was bordering so close to another property as well, and we didn't want to call anybody in until we for sure had permission. Well, as it turned out, it didn't matter anyways. It seemed like he had crossed maybe 10 yards in and like kind of came back, and that's at one point where we had last blood. And we didn't even realize that we were like 10 yards. Because then, I mean, it's like on the east side there.
It's super thick.
All of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, I don't know if we got better check, the
Right.
map. and
Where are
stuff.
we?
And as it turns out, we contacted the neighbors. It took them a little bit to get back to Mike. But yeah, they're like, oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go get your deer,
it's always great.
And by that time, we had already, found him back on our side or whatever. But
Well, so during that time, you were hunting as well.
yeah,
right?
so I pushed in that morning. This was going to be the last day. I mean, I could have came back up the following weekend. Very, very truncated time period there to kind of get it done. And I had so much stuff going on at home, with mitigation with the basement and all that kind of stuff. Like I kind of needed to be back and be home. Sarah, my wife, was like, if you don't get it done, by all means, go back up.
Mm-hmm.
But so I hunted that morning, and it was a really, really slow morning. I got myself in on the east side of a doe bedding area. And I knew I was kind of really pushing it at this point, but I felt really good about the wind and just the entire situation. Very thick stuff, very small shooting lanes, only like 2, maybe 3 spots that you're going to be able to get a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about 9 o'clock, and I heard one small grunt. and I happened to see a deer behind some fallen trees. I couldn't even make out what it was. I had the binos on it. I'm like, is that a spike? Is that a doe? I couldn't really tell because it was pretty thick. And then all of a sudden, this buck that we call Slickback came out. The very same buck that played decoy for me
Right.
when I shot that guy last year, the bladed 8. And I had lots of encounters with him throughout, that 5-day hunt. And he's just such a weird deer. He's a 3-year-old, right? Mm-hmm. But he's just got these short little tines that curve back to his back.
Right.
And then he's got all these little stickers. He might have a total of 10 or 11 points on him. But you could fit it in the size of a volleyball.
Right. Yeah.
It's just so weird. And he's got this kind of thick, stumpy neck. He's just weird. And then a lot of times when you see him, when he's cruising through, kind of bird dogging around, he's just going, bah, 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 like he's just.
I know
you're
what's wrong
special.
with it. Ain't got no gas in it.
Right, exactly. The sling
Fitbit.
blade, man. He is a special deer, and I have a feeling he's going to get shot this weekend during gun season. I don't know why. I'm not going to do it because, and I don't care if anybody else does,
But
but
it's almost like we have to pay homage to him
right,
because he's played decoy twice
now. So he shows up, and then all of a sudden the buck I end up getting comes out, and he's going off in a different direction. So I threw up a few aggressive grunt calls at him. I didn't snort wheeze. I was about to, but soon as he heard those aggressive grunts, when I say aggressive, like you're kind of give him that growl, and he stopped. He stopped on a dime and spun around 180 degrees and just started coming in, ears pinned back, bristling up. I'm like, oh wow, this is crazy. I mean, and I'm turning the dial on my HHA. I'm like 35, 30, 25. I'm like, if he makes a left-hand turn down this path, this is going to be a 21-yard shot. And sure enough, he does. And he walks right in front of the trail camera. And right as I get him to stop in one small, I mean, it's maybe a 10-yard wide at best opening, if that. That's probably even pushing it.
Yeah, no, it's tight.
It's pretty tight. And then I get him to stop in the right spot and sunk it in. Now, mind you, that Monday was super windy out. It was very loud out there. He mule kicked, ran 15 yards, and then I can't see him anymore. Sure. That's how thick it is in there. And I'm listening. I don't hear him crash, nothing. I felt really good about the shot, but, you always err on the side of caution. So I sat in the stand for about a half hour, and I'm like, I'm going to just see if I can get up to the arrow and take a look. And the arrow looked good, left it in the ground, or put it back in the ground, to mark the spot. Backed out to the truck, called Mike, and then that's all that thing. So after we found Mike's buck, all right, let's go get mine. So we walk up there, and by this time, leaves had turned over.
Really?
And that from
Right.
how windy it was. The blood had dried up so much at this point. And then the sun was coming out of the west really brightly. I mean, it was like really, really hard to see. And I'm like, I know I saw really good blood from the arrow, right away. And even that blood wasn't there like it was in the morning. And so I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Because you got the.
Oh, I don't, let's not start this again. I'm like, but I knew I made a good shot. You always think that, right? And then you start second guessing,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
what could have happened? Well, whatever. There's a whole bunch of windfall there. We climb over the top, and I'm like, oh yeah, there's blood right here. And we turn corner. Mike's like, he's right here. That buck didn't go 15 yards.
Made
And
one
go
quick
20.
little curve, hopped over the branches, and fell over.
Right. I mean, he went in. He almost made a full circle right to the exact spot, which would have encompassed 20-yard circle.
Let's see the pictures of this guy. Oh, isn't that's a special moment, the two of you together.
Yeah, I mean,
I actually thought when I was looking at that, I'm like, what kind of double exposure, weird, artsy picture is this? But no, I mean, that's a nice buck.
Yeah, I mean, that's super long tines. He every single one of his tines was busted except for his brows,
Yeah.
all the tips, and then his G3 on his left side was very recently snapped off. I mean, and like kind of splintered.
And then you also said that he had some
scars.
Right.
Yeah, again on his left side, he had two big, long gouge scars on the side where he had kind of got cut open, or
Yeah.
you know, I mean, he was obviously he was a fairly aggressive buck to begin with. For
Right.
him to like spin and do a 180 like that on those grunt calls and come back with his ears pinned back, like this guy wasn't afraid of a fight. I mean, for all we know, maybe he was fighting with Mike so
Yeah,
at one point
right.
or whatever, and you know, I don't know. He didn't have, you know, any scarring on his face or anything, but really, really, just kind of a cool buck. By far not one of my biggest by any means, but really happy to have taken him, especially on the last day like that. I mean, I probably would have hunted that evening,
Yeah.
but then they have that moment where Mike and I literally are dragging our bucks out
Right.
together at the same time. Was just awesome. You don't get that too often, not during archery season. You know, that kind of stuff is a little more common maybe during gun season, but for archery like that and us to get those pictures together,
Right.
that's a special moment for a
Yeah,
lot of
you-
reasons. Mike, you know, I've had 4 years straight success here now during archery, and Mike was kind of on a 4-year slump. And prior to that, though, you were consistently shooting some really nice bucks, and for us to finally get out of, you know, or come together and get it done at the same time within a 24-hour period was really cool. And I was super proud of him for his persistence and staying after that track job. You know, I feel like. And there's nothing wrong with bringing in a drone or bringing in a dog by any means necessary. And that could have been an option for us. That, you know, we actually threw it out there. And really get down on yourself to the point where you kind of give up. And, you know,
Right.
it's just kind of some sort of weird divine intervention that I didn't leave at 11:30 to come over and meet him. I gave, you know, somehow or another, I don't know if it was subconsciously or I just got distracted and wasn't paying attention to the time, but giving him that extra 20 minutes, he decided,
been the
I'm going to look in
difference.
this one more spot here. You know, maybe you would have went back out in the afternoon and looked some more, but at that point, that having that extra 20 minutes, boom, you found him like,
You might not
I might
remember,
almost
but
see
I
that.
remember I remember why I got that extra 20 minutes. I believe somebody got caught up watching television in a show
So what? No.
back at the bunkhouse.
I might have been watching an episode of something or other.
So that's where we got the extra time. So that's
It all
all it
worked
took.
out.
It must have been a good episode. I don't really remember. And if I do, we're not going to talk about it. And it wasn't the Kardashians or anything like that. I can promise you.
It's probably the
It was a
Office.
hunting episode of something.
Yeah. It's probably the Office.
It might have been. It might have been.
But no, it was good. I mean, yeah, getting them both, you know, or finding them at least both at the same time and everything that goes along with that. And even, you know, where we hunt, the actual landowner was there too that day. And, you know, he came out, helped us a little bit, and he got to go there. He was taking pictures. He was excited about it. So it was kind of nice for him too, I think, to see.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
He made a comment. He's like, yeah, I really just, you know, a lot of times I remember seeing you walking away, you know, kind of dejected about it. I'm like, well, it doesn't work out every time, you know, and it's kind of irritating, but, you know,
yeah, he was definitely stoked for both of us, and I think especially you because you know that it had been a few years since you got a buck, and to do it during archery season and a buck of that proportion is really really
absolutely, absolutely.
so. Luke, where are we at here? What do we have any comments here? Is your mic on?
You have a microphone there.
We've got previous comments about the first topic. We still have some of those to discuss if you want to do that. Or
Yeah, let's dive into it.
What time? What do we got on here on time here?
51.
Why don't we take a quick intermission, then we'll get into the deer camp stuff here. So, does that sound good to you guys? All right, we'll be right back, guys. Stick with us. All right. How about now? Are we back?
Are we back? Yes, no, maybe so. Please let us know.
So somebody commented Luke had audio, then it stopped. It's very bizarre.
Paul Bland says yes.
Yay.
We're good.
We're back. Hit the air horn for that.
Yeah, well, the last time we did that, that's when everything went to shit.
I must hit Control Shift and turn the microphone down.
I think that's what it was.
God. And this is why we drink, folks. This is why we drink.
And we got the air horn too, Paul Bland says.
Yay. Thank you.
All right, we got audio.
So, what you probably didn't hear is us apologizing for the first segment. So I'm just going to go ahead and lump that into the second segment. We're sorry for this as well.
Third segment.
And the third segment, so here we go.
Your camp comments, let's do that.
What are you going to do? So, deer camp. That's good, huh?
Yeah.
We got a comment here for Deer Camp. Paul Bland, I don't hunt, but I'm having a Twister tournament if any of the wives are on board. Just got to clear with Natasha, divorce face. He also spelled bored like he was going to sleep. So just a heads up on that.
Hey, it happens, Paul. Man.
Jacob Smith is hunting with buddies on private land. Go, Jacob. Good luck with you and your buddies.
Yeah, good luck. Hunt safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shoot straight.
Have a good time.
That's what it's all about.
Oh, right. I mean, I'm a little delayed here. I just wanted to make sure we're still getting good comments here, that everything's coming through here solid, because I feel like I've wasted a lot of breath here tonight.
Jeff Beskabing, my roommate, says, hi, guys.
He is your roommate.
right.
It'll be a very interesting deer camp in that particular room. It'll be a snore off, fart off is kind of what I'm guessing, based on what we
That's
saw
what you
last
envision,
year.
huh?
Oh, what we saw last year, or what we experienced last year. So that's why we shoved you two guys in that back room together. You guys can have it out.
No, I don't think it was magical. Nothing magical was happening at all.
There was
you
no
go.
cinnamon. There was nothing like that at all.
Round one. Fight.
But isn't that what deer camp is really all about? I mean, it's those kinds of things, right? The
Oh,
snort
yeah,
and the fart and
absolutely.
the- I mean, and not for all. I mean,
That might be why we stopped with the pickled eggs, though.
and we used to do the pickled eggs
Volatile.
big time.
Just absolutely volatile.
I mean, you ate more eggs in a day and a half than you did in the entire
The
year.
entire year
Absolutely.
leading up to it, right? And I love eggs.
You're just standing there. It's like a bowl of M&M's sitting there. Oh, I'll have another one.
right.
Well, now I'll try that one again.
No, time out. Nobody on the face of the earth has ever compared pickled eggs to a bowl of M&Ms.
Just keep eating them. They're sitting there, and you're just standing out there drinking them by the fire.
Right. With shots
I'll have
to
another
the
one.
hunt. And
Are you bringing smoked oysters? Mike, that's like a tradition. Smoked oysters,
yeah, you really ought
little
to.
fresh cracked pep.
It is good.
Some
Remember when we
Chipotle
tried the
Tabasco?
smoked oyster pudgy pie?
Oh, that was.
Yeah, that was not a good idea.
Let's never speak of that again.
I think I'm going to go with Mike Mason. He's headed to the Cascade Range in 2 weeks with his son, some buddies, a harmonica, and a case of Old Style.
Okay, all right.
That is very outdoorsy. That's like old school. Harmonica, and what kind of beer?
Old style.
Old Style.
Yeah, I've been seeing him drinking the Old Style lately.
That's clocking in and doing some work right there.
That is. I mean, and that's risky business when you're going to go out in the woods drinking Old Style.
Also, someone just canceled this weekend. Jeff Beskabing, it's not too late to change my plans.
Hey,
No, he's bringing the
The steak is already bought, buddy.
He's bringing the 50-pound sack of potatoes up with him from Jim Fry.
Some good old russets.
Those are some special potatoes because Jim makes a special delivery every year for a 50-pound bag of those potatoes. I don't know if I've ever had them, but
They're huge.
they must be pretty
They're
special.
monsters. They're,
As long as they're not baked, man, I'll tell you what. I don't care if it's deer camp. I don't care if it's I'll tell you the biggest scam perpetrated on the American public by the restaurant industry. It's called the baked potato. That is 100% fact. It is such a scam to get a baked potato with your fish fry, with your steak. That damn baked potato cost that restaurant like 25 cents at best. 21 cents for that baked potato. And baked potatoes are terrible. It's the
I
worst
like baked potatoes.
You're disgusting. As my wife would say. You're disgusting.
Oh, man. Now, don't get me wrong. There are other
All the
potatoes
options.
I would prefer, but there are certain times, there's a time and a place where baked potato, to me, just feels right.
And how do you do up your baked potato? You just cut it open and put a little salt and pepper on it, pat of butter, call
Yep.
it good.
Yeah.
You don't mash it up a little bit.
No.
You just eat it.
Yeah.
How? Do you, Mike?
No, when I have them, it's sour cream and cheese and bacon bits and
And you
all
just
that
keep
stuff. And
mashing
you mash it all up in there.
till
and
it's
mix it up
mashed potatoes.
Because the potato itself is awful.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
like a dry, terrible
I like
apple.
the skin itself too. That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, with a little dirt on there, and some eyes and
That's good eating,
sprouts
man.
coming off of it. Like no.
I'm sorry. Maybe I should be drinking this with my pinky up. Baked potatoes are
It's
aren't fancy enough.
2023, folks. We don't need to eat baked potatoes anymore. There's so many better ways. A twice baked potato, that's delicious. Mashed potatoes, potato salad, French fries, sweet potato fries, tater tots. There's so many better ways. To
All
eat a
right,
damn
all right,
potato.
Bubba, we got it.
Summer Fillinger says, not this conversation again. Facepalm.
Yeah, I'll talk for hours about it. The awfulness of a damn baked potato.
A real conversation here. Mike Mason, Deer Camp is on the west side, obviously, of the range, chasing big mullies this year. Those are monsters next to elk.
When you said mollies, he meant muleys.
Yeah, yeah.
And your Jeff Biskiming, he can mash them if you prefer, guys.
Yeah, with some milk and some sour cream, some heavy cream maybe in there. Like, oh, I'd rather eat the butt end of a stalk of broccoli with no hollandaise sauce than a damn baked potato. I'll tell you that.
But we look forward to him this weekend. Thanks, Jeff, for bringing the potatoes because it's going to be awesome.
Thanks, Jim Fry, for making the trip down or up, wherever
As it
Jim's at
were.
these days. Probably he was on his way up to
Yeah, I
go
would
to
think.
deer camp. He's got to get up at deer camp like 2 weeks ahead of time.
That's
Get
right.
that fire stoking for 2 weeks. So
It was,
Tune in 2 weeks. We have Elton Brown on to talk about potatoes. Good eats.
so you talk about deer camp and traditions, right? So we had a long-standing tradition of waking up at 2:30 in the damn morning.
I was like 3:30.
Yeah, big difference, says the man that hates potatoes. Baked, of course. Just to go stand out on the road because we were hunting public, right? And everybody had to bring a vehicle. I didn't even have a license sometimes. They had to give me a car to drive down there.
Oh yeah,
That's a lie.
to fill that
just
parking
to
lot.
just to fill up that area, right? So that
Nobody
anybody
can
else
drive
come
over.
down like, oh yeah, we got guys all crawling through here. There's no room for you.
Yeah, there'd be. Most of the vehicles wouldn't even stop. They just see eight, 9 vehicles and be like, "Oh yeah, we're not in this spot."
Right.
We had 8 or 9 guys hunting
With
hundreds of acres there, but we made it look like there had been 20, 30 guys out there. And then when Jim would go talk, he'd walk up and he'd be smoking his pipe, and he'd walk up to the vehicle pulling up or whatever, and they'd start chit chatting. He's like, "Oh yeah, we got like 20 of us back here. We've been bow hunting this area all season long. We haven't seen a single deer back here.
There's no sign
Yeah,
of
here we
life.
are, all our for gun season.
Right. So we've had that tradition, as it were. We touched on the pickled eggs. I think one that we haven't done really in a while. We actually introduced it to our ice fishing trip.
What's that?
It's the Abergoots.
Oh, Abergoots.
I don't know if you all are familiar with Abergoots out there, but I mean, what is Abergoots?
Abergoots
Not so good.
This Abergoots ain't so goots. Abergoots is to the hunt.
To the hunt.
It's as some people will refer to as snowshoe grog. Phillips makes it, makes a bad version of it. Because the real version, the best version, is made by a very cheap liquor company called Paramount,
Insanely cheap.
and it is brandy and peppermint schnapps. If you're from the Wisconsin area or the upper Midwest, you ought to know about snowshoe and the Abergoots. It's been a long-standing tradition for us.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, when we used to hunt in Black River Falls area, you'd open up the cabinet above the refrigerator, those cabinets up there.
The small, useless cabinet.
Right, that's only good to keep liquor away from small children.
Or Drew, because he's 5 foot nothing.
And how many bottles were up there? I mean, a
just-
dozen.
Yeah. And you
Right?
take one down, pass it around. 11 more bottles of Paramount to get through in a weekend.
11 more bottles of Paramount on the wall. Take one down, you pass it around.
But good stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It wasn't
Paramount's
as good come Sunday.
It's a hard one to. It's a hard one to come by these days. I think the only place I know of is like Otto's liquor, because nobody,
Right.
a lot of the places don't carry that Paramount. And I think the nice thing about the Paramount versus the snowshoe
It's the price point.
well, they're both cheap. Is I think there's a little more peppermint schnapps in the Paramount.
Yeah.
A little less brandy.
I would agree.
Snowshoes got a little more brandy, a little less peppermint schnapps. So it goes down a little bit smoother. But hey, brandy, it's the official liquor of Wisconsin. So
If you ever see it, if you haven't had it, if you see it, buy it, try it, enjoy it, and have
just
one
call
to
it
the
to the hunt.
To the hunt.
To the hunt. And then the pickle eggs, of course. Absolutely.
eggs.
I mean, Dave, who has not hunted now with us for several years, but who actually brought us in on the lease that we've been hunting now for like 20 years. He would do, what are those big jars? What size is this?
Quart, isn't it?
What is this jar?
Gallon?
I mean, it's got to be like a gallon, right?
They're
It's more than that.
More than a gallon, right? Yeah, I mean, the jars are like this. So anyways,
Gallon.
four jars, and I mean, there had to been at least 3 dozen eggs in each one, and he would make 4 different styles.
yeah.
He did a Youper,
Yep.
he did a Wisconsin, he did a jalapeno,
Which was just to die for.
and I don't remember what the last one was.
It was just like a
Just
a
like a-
plain Jane original.
Just original, yeah. And he plopped those out on the picnic table out by the fire on Friday afternoon. And yeah,
yeah, who
it made for a really, really stinky deer camp every year.
but who else has a fire, right? I mean, is that something that you guys do, or are you guys having campfires for
I mean, I think you have to. I mean,
it's nice.
unless it's bitter cold out,
Which what was that? Last year. Holy cow, was
yeah,
that?
last year actually we didn't sit around the fire. We did other things, but
Tried very briefly to sit but it was so
It was pretty-
you
it
had
was
to like
pretty cold.
stand in the fire pit to warm up.
it's gonna be vastly different this year.
Yeah.
I think nighttime we're gonna get lows into the upper 20s, and stuff. Daytime highs in the mid to upper 40s, maybe even touching 50 by us, which is a little unseasonably warm. It makes for nice sitting in terms of being out there, and you can sit longer and that, and
Without clicking your boots together.
right, or having to come back in and get food. But for me, I mean, I used to be one of those guys for gun deer season where I would sit up from sun up to sundown. I did that for so many years. And I just really don't do that anymore. I guess I don't put as much effort into gun season as I do during archery season.
Sure.
I think you get a little bit exhausted from the grind of archery season. And then when gun comes around, I'd like to enjoy myself more and not grind it out quite as hard.
Yeah, just take a more casual approach to it.
Right. I have
And
no problem.
and you've been very successful with that approach as well. So
It's worked out.
yeah, just fine.
Well, even just knowing that you're able to, if you do get cold or something like that, you are able to get up and walk around and still have just as good a chance, kind of, as sitting in a stand or the blind.
Right.
You kick something up, as long as it doesn't completely run away, you might be able to just kneel down and shoot it. So yeah, it opens up a lot more opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. You get that reach out and touch it factor going on.
So Mike, you've hunted with us for how many years now? I know math is
12
hard.
13, I
12
think.
or 13, something like that.
13.
What couple this is a two-part question, right? So first part is what was your first impression of deer camp, right? The very first year that you came up. What did you think of it? And then part two of that is what is, like, in your eyes, right? I mean, things have changed throughout the years. We've had people that don't hunt with us anymore for any number of reasons, right? So obviously things change. You know, how do you feel about the changes that have taken place?
Yeah, I think the first year I went up, didn't know exactly what to expect, but yeah, it reminded me exactly of like when I was younger, and my dad would take us up north to a lodge, not for hunting, but for just in the summer, and we'd ride dirt bikes and stuff. And it was kind of like that. It was like my dad and then like his friends from work
Yeah.
that would be there all that weekend. So it was like a bunch of people. It was kind of like that, because it was like, even though we were older, but it
Right.
was still like you were the kids there, and then like your dad and all his friends, and yeah. So it was perfect. It was very comfortable. I mean, it's just nice having like that huge group of people, and you guys all knew each other forever, obviously, but yeah. So just
That
Good
kind of
everybody just
guys
wanted to
part of
be
it, yeah.
there. It had nothing to do with anything else. You just wanted to be there, and
Right.
do what you're doing, and do all these things, and everybody was. So yeah, that
Having a
it
good
was
time.
amazing, And then yeah, kind of slowly, even over those 13 years, it kind of flowed up and down. People would drop out, or we lost our spot to stay for a couple of years, and that changed, and that was a whole new thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think all those little changes have kind of, it fine tunes. I really like this aspect of that, but I didn't really, maybe I didn't like that. And
Right.
and now we're at a point where, yeah, I guess we're the oldest people.
Right. We're almost
Right.
For the most part.
all the baby
And,
boomers are gone. Some have passed, and some have, just decided, not to hunt anymore. My dad included, but the nice thing, he still comes up every year, at least for, one night and hangs out and
Yeah,
and
which
stuff.
is awesome.
And this year he's staying up for a couple nights. Luke, our producer here, is coming up for a couple nights. He's not a hunter himself, but he had interest in learning what deer camp is all about, having not ever experienced that. Luke, do you want to chime in and talk about like what your experience was last year?
Yeah, and my dad was a big hunter. Went to deer camp every year, and he always looked forward to it. We always missed him, but he always talked fondly of it. To get into that, even if it's just like tippy toeing into the whole experience, is great, and it's something that I'm glad to be a part of. So
Yeah, I mean, Luke, I'll just continue on with that. Like, I thought it was really cool last year that you wanted to
That was
you know,
great.
you said, hey, you guys think it would be cool if I came up and, you know, I'm producing this show now. Your dad was a hunter. Stuff's
Right.
all about, right? And now you're coming back this year.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, you threw your hands up. We got an issue?
Microphone was changed to default.
Oh,
Yeah, right now we're getting the messages that the sound's gone again.
are you serious?
Yeah. It just popped up microphone.
Yeah.
Let's go to this, do this.
All right. I guess we're back.
Maybe we're back. Maybe we're
I
not.
know we're really having a tough go video.
Hell of a time here tonight,
Yeah, I mean,
which is a shame because this, you know, for myself personally, this is something that I look forward to, not just this weekend, but this show in particular.
right, exactly. Yeah, like I don't know, we've put a lot of time and effort into getting things set up
Dickens?
and going here. What's the matter? Oh, you lost your bourbon. Checking things out. Yeah, hopefully we're good to go here, but yeah, no, it I don't know if there was no luck,
Well, right. I mean,
we'd still find that moment. And that might be the problem, that damn air horn.
I think that is the solution to all of our problems. Is the air
Or
horn.
the downfall.
I disagree. The air horn is wonderful, but nonetheless, really looking forward to this weekend. I hope everybody out there is as well.
Yeah, I mean, deer camp is gun deer season. It's just it's a different animal. It's a different being in itself, right? I mean, it's just the mindset is different. It's, I mean, to be cliche is being cliche.
Right.
That it's like Christmas for us hunters. We look forward to this. I mean, my two favorite weekends are, you know, like short periods of time is out of the year. You get your rut, you get gun deer season, you get Christmas. You know, those are my favorite times of year for sure.
Right.
Jeff Biskupin commented 11 minutes ago, 'twas the night before Christmas.
Oh no, we didn't.
You can tell you guys are related somehow.
We know what that's about. We're not gonna.
We're not. I was just about to recite it.
No, we're not gonna recite that. No, like.
Oh, we lost sound.
But we all, yeah, that's a good one, Dad. Yeah, we know what that's all about.
Filled our stockings with pretzels and beer.
Stop. It's 2023. It's 2023.
But yeah,
know.
so that is it. It's right. I mean, your entire mentality changes going into this weekend. Just even like the music that you might listen to on the way up to deer camp,
Right.
right? Maybe coming home from deer camp.
Well, I mean, I told you like last weekend we were at Sight In on Sunday morning and that, and we're all kind of fired up or we're kind of amped up in that. I'm like cranked up. I've got Grassroots playing in the background.
Right.
Like I got that 60s music going on.
Right.
Los Bravos.
Yeah.
I got Badfinger playing in that. Well, why are you listening to that, Scott? I'm like, because that's the music that was on the radio when I was 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, driving up with my dad, you know, going up to deer camp as a kid. You know, that's the music that we were listening to. So it just kind of sparks up that nostalgia that deer camp brings for everybody. I mean, you can just search YouTube and just type in gun deer season deer camp or Wisconsin, Michigan, deer camp, Minnesota, and there's tons of people with YouTube pages, and they're all putting together the same videos and I just find myself this time of year watching these videos, and I love watching and seeing what other people's deer camps are like. I mean, you get videos of these guys that like will build like a small house,
Right.
that they bring it up on a trailer,
Yeah.
and that they're all staying in with bunks and stuff. They build that. They spend 3 hours building it on a Friday, and then they're tearing it down Monday and going back home. But it's so cool. But that's their tradition. Whether it's a junky old trailer on a piece of 20 acres or something, it's so cool. I love hearing and seeing what deer camps are about, because there's just nothing like that. And if you've never experienced a deer camp before in any sort of size, shape, or capacity, it's really, really hard to describe the feeling. And if you haven't been there, you can't really understand it though either.
Right. And I think that is what really piqued like Luke's interest last year. Like I want to come and see what this is all about. And
What's all this hype about, you know?
guess who's coming this year?
Exactly. I mean, Mike, it had to be like the same for you, you know, like what is all this hype about? I mean, and now you're in Wisconsin, and like it's part of who you are now.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the closest thing is to like going camping. You know, everybody's just there, and there's nowhere to go. You're there,
Right.
But it, you know, some of like your dad's friends and stuff. That was the one time a year I saw him. You know, you kind of look forward to that, and that was nice. I'm sure that's a lot of people have too. It's like that's the only time they see maybe these 5 or 6 people. You know,
Right.
and some people it's the same people you see all year round too. But yeah, I mean, it's something to look forward to for many different reasons. But
And the fun thing about it too is when you don't see these people, but only maybe a couple times a year, you feel like you just pick right back up where you left off
Right.
the last time you saw them.
some
you're
people always look a little older every year.
Well, some of
Not
us
sure
get
why,
gray, some of us don't get gray.
I feel it. You were pointing at us.
I thought
Was he pointing at us?
Yeah.
You son of a.
I'll point again.
Mike Mason says my deer camp is an old 50s Boy Scout 2-person canvas tent. It's a B1. It's a B1 TCH, must be a name brand, to drag through the woods for a few miles, but worth it.
Oh, Mike's an outdoorsman. I mean, he's like old school like that. Like he's out there out west in Washington and in the mountains, like he's doing it up like hardcore.
I'm telling you right now,
He's a military man though. I mean, this is nothing for him.
we need to plan a trip to go visit Mike.
Oh yeah,
out
we
west.
gotta go turkey hunting out there.
Dude, we're coming turkey hunting. I want to see the shed bar because that looks awesome. Like,
Yep.
I don't know if you guys are friends with Mike. I highly recommend checking out his pictures because this shed bar that he has is legit. It's awesome.
Yeah.
The only thing that's terrible about it is he
Isn't drinking old
watches.
style.
Well, there's that. And that's not great, but some Washington State Cougars watches a lot of that. Yuck.
A guy from Wisconsin, nonetheless.
Mike, we're coming for you, buddy.
But yeah, I mean, deer camp is something special. It's something we all look forward to every year, and it comes in all different shapes and sizes. I mean, for some guys, it's staying in a motel. You know, a big group of guys getting, you know, hotel rooms or motel rooms. You know, it could be a campground. It could be an old cabin in the back of the woods.
And whatever it is, that's great.
Right? It's your tradition.
Enjoy it.
Ours has changed throughout the
Several
years,
times.
so many times. It's stayed, you know, for the most part, it's been very consistent, but we've had some change ups and changing of people hunting with us. And,
Yeah.
And that, like Mike mentioned before, or well, I don't know, one of you two said it, like, yeah, now we're the old guys.
Yeah, well, it's almost
the
like we're in
camp
this like in between spot now because
Right.
now, you know, for you and I, it's like, well, 5 years from now,
Our
if we're still in
kids,
the same
yeah.
spot, assuming we are. Well, now all of a sudden, our kids will be up there
Mm-hmm.
possibly, and you know, it's almost in that short amount of time, it completely transitioned over. And
Yeah, and you'll have your AARP card. So, but still not great.
I'll be getting that sweet
Son
discount
of a
at Quick Trip
bitch.
when we go.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, the kids are going to be coming up here really soon. I mean, you brought your son up last year for second weekend, at least for a day, to kind of
Yeah.
check it out, sit in the blind for a few hours.
Yeah,
and
so yeah, Emmett was 6 last year when we went. So
Yeah.
yeah, he came up and sat in the blind for an afternoon. And
and I'll be doing the same with Spencer next year. And he's excited for this entire fall. He's been taking my doe decoy out in the yard with his binos and his Nerf bow and arrow,
That's awesome.
climbing up on a chair, with a camo hat on, and pretending he's hunting. So like, he's looking forward to it, and I can't wait to get out there with him. I mean, at 6 years old, like, yeah, you're not gonna hunt yet. I know some people's kids are ready to do that. But if he wants to come up and kind of check it out and
Yeah.
do something similar where you go out for a few hours, you go and get some chocolate chip pancakes with some whipped cream and
All right.
and then go back out for a couple more hours just to kind of get them. Because I think that's what you almost have to do with a lot of kids. I mean, some kids are just boom, they're totally into it. They have the patience and stuff, and other kids just you got to ease them into it and
Right.
make it a really fun experience. Especially if you want to introduce them at that young of age. I mean, we didn't get introduced
No.
into it until we were like 10, 11 years old. And there's part of me that's thinking, well, we'll see what 6-year-olds bring, but
Sure.
you know, it might not be next year. But I'm looking forward to that time where I get to share deer camp with my kid and you get and your kids and stuff. Some of the other guys in our hunting group have young kids. It's gonna be a lot of fun to continue this tradition because that's really what this is about. It's about tradition. It's about the camaraderie,
Passing them on to the next gen.
friends and family, all that kind of stuff. And it's a season, it's a time of year that we look forward to all year round. I mean, for as much as I get amped up for archery season and getting out there and then the rut comes and you're like, oh yeah, I love it. I love all of it. But there's something about gun season that just hits a little bit different. And I think it's that nostalgia factor. You know,
Absolutely.
the deer becomes so secondary for me when this weekend hits. Like, by all means, we all want to shoot a big buck and put meat in the freezer, whatever it is. See deer, enjoy the time outdoors. And for me, it's all of that. You know, it's like everything. It's all encompassing, and then there's just bonuses
That's right.
to go with it. So
Absolutely.
but we're going to have a great time this weekend. Hope you guys do too, wherever your camp is, whether it's here in Wisconsin for opening weekend or you're in Michigan right now, enjoying your gun season. I know we got some other seasons coming up here in the Midwest. Enjoy it. You never know, when this is going to be your last hunt. I mean, not to sound. It looks like what?
You may not even make it there. Who knows?
Right.
You might die on the way.
That's a terrible. No, but hey, tomorrow's never promised.
That's right. So
You
appreciate
never
and
know when it's going to be your
enjoy.
last hunt, and enjoy the time with your friends and family, even if it's just you and a buddy, and it's a small group or a large group. Make memories. That's what it's really all about.
Absolutely.
So, 2 weeks from now, we'll be back on November 30th, hopefully with all the bugs cleared up.
It'll be polished. Don't worry, folks.
Yeah,
It's going to be
absolutely has to be.
polished.
So,
It's been a few months, right? This was our
rusty.
first one. We apologize. But thank you for sticking with us. As always, we always love and appreciate the support. And, of course, always outdoors.